Hello, everyone. My name is Vikram Mukherjee, and I'm joined here by the very talented Maiher Virk. Um, and today we're going to be discussing and hosting our last episode of Vishwa Taal. So, hey Meher bhai, how are you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Doing well. Where are you joining us from?
From Toronto, Canada.
And I'm sure the weather is quite cold.
Very, very cold. It was just snowing earlier today. But yeah,
I imagine it's a good time for Riyaz during the winter
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Not much to do outside.
definitely for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Meher, by just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and inadvertently how you got into tabla.
Sure. So my name is Mihir. It's very nice to be speaking with you guys. Thank you, Rick and Mike, for inviting me. I was actually born in England, and I moved to Canada at the age of 2. I started learning tabla around the age of 5 from Shri Harpal Singh Kalla, who is a disciple of Pandit Kishan Maharaj, my Dada Guru. And so he taught me like the basics and kind of introduced me to tabla and music in general. And then around the age of 8 or 9, I was lucky enough to become a student of Ustad Sekunder Singh Pinkiji. So um, as you noticed, my first teacher, Harbal Singh Kalaji, was also a disciple of Pandit Kishan Maharaj, and so is my Guruji. So that's how that kind of started. And then from there, just many years of learning and Guruji's blessings, his teachings, so much time spent, so much practice, lots of practice. And yeah, we're here today. I'm currently studying at York University psychology,
Wonderful.
and
Yeah, it's so amazing to see people, with a Western upbringing and then also balancing tabla. When you first got into tabla, was it sort of, did you take it seriously from the beginning, or was it just sort of something that you did?
to be honest, I was kind of put into it. Like I showed interest at a very like extremely young age. Like as the interest is in like there would be a video of my mamaji actually playing tabla, and it'd be on TV, and like we would have a small little tabla set at home, and I'd be playing at the age of 2. So there was obviously like I showed some interest, but I don't think anyone, neither my parents nor me, thought that I would actually take it seriously, especially at the age of 5. But slowly, slowly as time went on, things took their natural course, and then I took things more seriously. So, yeah.
And then exactly how did that spark happen that you felt you wanted to take it more seriously?
I think I was around like 13, 14, 15, around that age when I kind of like started like focusing a lot on doing more riyaz, more learning. And like Guruji was pushing, like, really like supportive and a lot of, rigorous practice. And I kind of just fell in love with it more. And through that, I realized that I want to take this as far as I can possibly take it.
And sort of taking yourself back to 13, 14-year-old Meher, what are some
Mhm.
things that Guruji, Pinky Ji did to to inspire you?
I think one of the biggest things he did that was a huge inspiration for me and a motivation was even actually when I first started with him, even at the age of 8. There used to be this like when he did classes, especially in Canada, because he used to come for maybe like a month or so.
Hmm.
He would do beginners like beginners class, younger kids class, and then this and that. But he'd be staying at like my house or like there was a few other families here. So especially when he was staying at my house, I would be there and I'd be like 8 years old, 9 years old, like and like these really like advanced kids. Like my senior group, I just missing Chana. You must have heard of him, I'm sure. He, I mean, he's still like what a great double player. So he would be there. There were other Gurubhais of mine, Japa, Tanjo, all these guys were sitting there and they were playing very well. I'm at 8 years old, and Guruji's like, "No, you're playing with them." So he would put me in class with them, and that continued, and that was just a source of inspiration for me to like see like elder Gurubhais playing so well and seeing how happy Guruji got when they were really getting it. So it was just that kind of stuff that would really inspire me to practice and things like that.
I think you're touching on something really important here, sort of having gurubais and being thrown in the deep end. For people that are not super familiar with Hindustani classical music or the system of education. Oftentimes,
Mhm.
whenever you're learning with your guru, there are going to be other students that are there, and in that process, you sort of become like a little bit of a mini family, right?
Yeah,
And I think as Maiher was explaining, like when you're in that environment and getting thrown into the deep end, oftentimes without a life vest, it feels like
yeah,
that's when you do the majority of learning.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, Gurubhais are such an important part of learning. I mean, especially like your elder, your senior Gurubhais. I mean, I was like age of 8 or 9, and like Guruji was only coming once a year, and it was like a big disconnect every year. And so Guruji's like, you have elder Gurubhais here, like learn from them. You're so young, you might as well take advantage of the fact that you have senior Gurubhais. So
Yeah.
age of 8 or 9, I would go like once a week see just meeting Chanda, my elder Gurubhai, and he would so gracefully teach me, catch me up. It felt like he was trying to catch me up and also like refine me, getting me ready to learn more. It was just like that's the kind of advantage that you get with having such great Gurubhais and a great Guru at the same time.
Now, was the majority of that time during your Taalim phase? I know you said you were born in the UK. That was
Yeah.
in Toronto itself?
I came to Canada when I was like 2 years old, so
Oh, okay, okay.
most of my all of my Taalim started and continued in Canada.
And how else did you get exposure to tabla besides sort of Taalim? Did you see it in other places, attend concerts or anything, listen to
Yeah,
it
yeah.
even?
At that time, specifically at that time in Toronto, it was like pretty like for some reason I don't exactly know why. I mean, there was some great people, organizers, and things who were trying to promote classical music. So at that time, it was really often that there was concerts and great artists like Shahid Parvez Ji, Guruji was coming. So many great artists. I mean, I remember seeing Shiv Ji and Zakir Ji here. So
Hmm.
many great artists coming like, and I was young, and I remember. So that was like a great source of inspiration. And then also there was that's when I started playing a little bit like in the temples and the gurdwaras and stuff with Kirtan. And so that's how I kind of kept myself connected to tabla.
Yeah, that's great. I think the having a concert scene there is super,
Yeah,
super cool, and having it be accessible as well.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Even now, I think when I'm scrolling social media, there's so many great tabla players, students of tabla in Toronto. So definitely jealous of having that. And even now, I think I just saw there's I'm blanking on the name, but they've started this like Betak series where they have like they had Shabazz G come last time,
Oh,
and do you know
actually,
what I'm?
that is actually one of my Gurubhais Bhavan and
Yeah.
Apache students in VJ. They're organizing. They're doing quite a good job. I mean, they had their first big program was like a couple of years back, and that was Moksha Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Guruji played me and Guruji played there. And Guruji played 13 and a half beats Sri Guru Nanak Tal.
Yeah, but.
So yeah, and then last year I think Buddha Ditya ji was here.
Hmm.
So yeah, they're doing a really good job.
So I know we changed topics a little bit, but I know you mentioned growing up also attending the Gurudwara as well. Um, when did you first get involved in playing with Kirtan and how did that happen? Or Gurubani Kirtan, I should say.
It kind of just happened naturally over the course of time. Like, I mean, from a young age, you're always encouraged, especially as a young kid, to like if you like learning music and stuff, you go to the gurdwara, you play with the kirtan. So then, like slowly, like people are learning here as well. Like especially like in the secret kirtan tradition, there's a tradition of singing rag and like things like this. But it is a dying tradition, so there's an effort now to learn and play within rag while doing kirtan. So that kind of stuff was happening here, and there was like people my age, a little bit older, and they were doing kirtan quite often here and there. So then that's kind of how I started playing with them.
Was it intimidating at first?
No, it was actually very comforting. Playing with kirtan is like it's a homely feeling. You're at the temple, you're seeking your guru's blessings at the end of the day.
I think it's interesting to hear that across the board, myself included, and so many others I've talked to, like some of that first spark happens either in the mandir or at the gurdwara or just at home, like having those more like intimate spaces.
Yeah,
Like as you said, it's nothing everything to gain, not much to lose. When you're a kid, like you're not really thinking about it that much.
Like it's important to have those, um, like those mistake-free zones where like if you make a mistake, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like or like it's a place where you can take your risks and kind of like explore. Like those kind of spaces are very important.
So as you matured in that environment, um, what are some things you grew to understand and appreciate about Gurubani Kirtan?
Honestly, one of the biggest shocking and like interesting things for me was to understand the level of vidya, the
Mm,
high level of vidya that was presented at one point. Like obviously, so as I've mentioned before, this kind of tradition is dying out, and it has died out. And it's very rare to see vidya presented at that level, presented at that level, which used to happen pre-partition, like 1947 time. But we still get sparks and glimpse of it, like a glimpse of it, of how detail was presented, at what level, and what kind of like, style of music. Like nowadays, if you think of Keithan, especially in the Gurdwara, you're thinking of like some folk Garava Shabbats and like like kind of like pop Bollywood tunes and stuff like that. But back then, if you, I've heard some recordings of like legendary Keithanis and they're singing like Chotal, Damar, Panch and Swari and like epic Drupads and things like that, and it's just like wow. So in our house, in our Gurdwara, there's so much vidya that we just didn't know. That was the biggest thing.
so previously we were just discussing sort of Gurbani Kirtan as a musical form, and then we
Yeah,
were discussing accompaniment in terms of both tabla and jori also being involved. But both tabla and jori within themselves, to each, have a huge history, right? A huge and magnificent, glorious history.
yeah.
Um, how do you explain both sort of tabla and jori and their differences?
There's a few ways to explain it or like look at it. I mean, everyone. I mean, first the most important thing. Everyone always looks at their grandfather or like the founder of Indian percussion per se is Deepak Khavit. I mean, how many millions of years ago that was created, and then after came Jodi. Jodi came in the time. I'm not an expert. I'm not a historian or of any sort, but from what we're told is it's come in the time of Guru Arjan Dev Ji. So I'm not exactly sure how many. That was a few hundred years ago at least, over 200-300 years probably. And then Tabla came. I don't know. Again, I'm not remembering the years, the amount of years, but Jodi came first, then Tabla came after. That much I know for sure. Um, Jodi's repertoire specifically, or its development happened in Punjab. It's all. I mean, Jodi was made specifically to play with Gurubani Kirtan, as we were talking about earlier. And then tabla obviously is given its own light to percussion and its own sound per se. But the original origin comes from Pakhavaj, and then if you look at that as like say the grandfather, then you can say Jodi is the father of tabla, and then tabla is the son. Like you can look at it in
Yeah.
that kind of sense, in that kind of if you want to look at it in a linear way. But they all have their own stamps in that sense. They have their own purposes and own uses.
Coming to Jodi first, I know you said that sort of the compositions that we associate with Jodi are pretty much all created in Punjab itself.
Yeah,
Would you mind expanding upon that? So would it be that, there were specific masters of Jodi who lent themselves to create beautiful compositions?
yeah. Like I mean, again, I'm not exactly the greatest historian or of any sort. I mean, I do hope to actually do more research and learn more about this kind of like academic or the theory side of things. But like for example, my dada Ustad Baba Nihal Singh Ji, who taught my Guruji Jodi, he learned from Pai Nasira Ji, who learned from Mia Kadir Baksh.
Hmm.
And like that lineage of Baji's lineage, you've obviously heard of Mia Kadir Baksh and those people, those great masters. So that's kind of the lineage where Jodi that we learned comes from. There is a whole other side of it that I'm not too familiar with, so I don't want to comment on it. But um, per se. These masters I just named are from the Lahore side of Punjab, and then there's a whole Amritsar repertoire and masters who I haven't really gotten familiar with as of yet, but I do hope to in the future. Um, as far as repertoire goes, I mean it's all open-handed, and it's made specifically for the accompaniment of Drupad Kirtan, as we talked about. Um, Many bowls, specific bowls that are used in Jodi, like like the typical tete kata gadigana, karda tete, kitete ka dhunga tete, or tete tete ta tete karda tete. These kind of like Pakhavaj like sounds or phrases, but the construction of the bowls, I would say, is very unique. I mean, I've extensively listened to a lot of Pakhavaj, but I feel like the Pakhavaj or Jodi of Punjab is very unique in that sense. Some of their like the phrases and the tihais and the kind of compositions that come together. I mean, very unique in that sense.
Yeah, it seems like the language in itself is not something you find in anything really, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
Kavaj
Yeah.
or even different Gharanas of tabla. Um,
Mm-hmm.
would you mind? I feel like as a tabla player, I have to ask you because I get this chance with you to sort of. Are there any compositions that come to mind that
Yeah. Sure.
would
Sure.
sort of illustrate
Oh,
unique
so
bowl
I don't have
combinations?
I personally don't have a Jodi with me now, but I can try my best. There's this one beautiful composition given to me by Guruji. I mean, he said it's said to be created by my Dada Sargavan Singh ji, but so I'll give it a chance. I'll say it first. Then na dedicate then trigger then da. Dedicate the kata dedicate the crown the kita think it the tada karda karda think it tada karda think it tada karda think it tada dedicate the kata the crown the kita chakardar na then.
क्या बात है
This is
क्या
a
बात
Jodi composition actually. I played it on Tabla, but it's for Jodi. I think you can see how that would go.
incredibly difficult to both recite and play. As you said, the phrasing is
It's very
yeah, very
unique.
unique
Very unique.
and
Yeah.
untypical, right? Like you're having
Yeah.
to switch from parts of the drum that aren't typically used in consecutive motion, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for
That's kind of
sharing
what
it.
I'm trying to say about like like interesting or unique like phrases and combinations and things like that. Yeah. This is kind of an idea of what it was.
And despite one thing I noticed is that despite the phrasing being sort of atypical, it still carried its own and a great sense of poeticism to it as
Yeah.
well.
I feel like there's like a it holds its own poetry as you said, but also like its own chand within
Yes.
the bandish. It creates its own chants, mini chants within the bandish, and those are important to kind of uphold, especially.
Yeah. Now moving towards tabla. Um,
Mm-hmm.
First of all, was the transition between Jori and tabla from a Taalim perspective, like when you were learning it, were there any challenges associated with that, or was it more so like one day you would pick up Jori, other day you might pick up tabla, or just dependent on the moment?
I think the hardest part was balancing both. I mean, learning both separately was not never an issue for me. I never had that kind of difficulty of like like learning, but it was a matter of keeping the riyaz of both up at the same time. I mean, especially now, I think this is something I'm starting to realize now is like the demand for tabla, demand for jodi. Like sometimes, like some like few months, I'll have like multiple programs where I'm just playing jodi in a row, and I'm like, okay. So then I'll obviously focus a little bit more on jodi, but then boom, I have a tabla program coming up. Then like keeping that balance, you always have to keep both on
Yeah.
as high to that level, that standard at all times. Just keeping that going is very hard. I would say personally. I mean, I've asked Guruji about it multiple times, and he just laughs and he's like, "You'll figure it out one day." but I mean, I've seen him do it. I've seen how he does it. I mean, it's remarkable being the master of two instruments at the same time and upholding them at such a high level and thinking so deeply of both of them.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason he is who he is for that.
And
So yeah,
it's so amazing that your Gurubhais, your Guruji, the entire lineage, everyone is able to handle both sides simultaneously. And
yeah.
that's something very, very rare.
hmm No, no, that's definitely like that's just. I mean, it's just the way he teaches. I mean, his blessings. He's given so much to so many students. I mean, so I have so many Gurubhais. I'm happy and very proud to say that I have many Gurubhais who are doing really well.
Now, coming to tabla, right? When you had tabla talim, it would be purely tabla talim, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Now, would you get confused in terms of trying to with
No,
the
not
techniques?
not necessarily. Yeah. I guess there's some points where you kind of think that you would want to use, like for example, even in just this composition I just played. Uh, just this small part, for example, on Jodi, it comes straight, right?
Yeah.
But then on tabla, you're playing it, you want to emphasize the gadigana. So these kind of things, you wouldn't naturally think like, oh, the gadigana that needs to come like this, but when you learn it in front of your guru is explaining everything, how compositions should come out, how it should sound, then these kind of small things, then you don't have to worry too much about like getting confused per se, because it's kind of just it gets put out for you.
You have the clarity when the composition is being taught.
Exactly.
Now, Guruji, Ustad Pinky Ji, represents also a great Tabla Gharana, the Benares Gharana,
Yeah.
and had the good fortune of learning from the amazing Pandit Kishan Maharaj Ji. And who we all there doesn't need to be any words
Yeah.
regarding that, especially if you're watching this podcast.
Yeah.
So, sort of explain a little bit about Guruji's experience with him, and then what also you've been able to imbibe from the Benares Gharana.
Well, I mean, for those of you who know Guruji's story or Guruji as a person, he learned Jodi first as we were just talking about Jodi. So at the age of 5, he started learning Jodi, and then at the age of 11, he became a Gandapad and Shikir Pandikisha Maharaji. And at the age of 11, he moved to Benares and started learning. And he spent, as he says, around 18 to 20 years.
Wow.
And it was just a lot of rigorous, practice and seva. And we hear lots of like great stories about how he learned and his practice with his Gurubhais. I mean, that was also a really important part of his time there was rigorous practice. I mean, on top of the learning. And then the other thing that he likes to talk about and he mentions a lot is that he had the opportunity to travel with Panditji. So like on multiple occasions, multiple programs, they were going together to programs, and Guruji would be accompanying Panditji. And he said that he had got a chance to learn a lot, specifically just that, let alone the practice and learning that was happening in Benares. So
So Talim happening on the go.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and
And
then obviously like Guruji tells us all these stories and explains like how he learned certain compositions, and he'll tell us a gut, and he'd be like, oh, when I was your age, I was sitting in this place with Panditji, and he decided, now is the time for you to learn this gut, and then he'll teach this gut. Like these kind of stories is how he embodies like, or he'll imprint like a little story with every little composition, so you understand where it is coming from, how important that composition is to Guruji, and not only to Guruji but to the lineage of Benares Gharana as well.
I think those stories are so amazing. They're like
I mean, at times I find like those stories are more important at sometimes than just learning the composition. Like understanding the stories and the history is important as well, in my opinion.
it makes it a lot more personable and tactile, I feel, when you
Yeah.
can start to associate compositions and like where you were at in your talim or in your life with the
Mm-hmm.
composition. And then
Yeah.
when you reflect on it, you're also not only reflecting on the actual bowls or the composition itself, you're reflecting on those moments as
Yeah.
well.
Of course. I mean, yeah, definitely.
Um, in the process of sort of learning tabla, um, in what way was the Benares Baj introduced?
I mean, my first teacher was also a student of Pandit Kishan Maharaji. So Banaras was introduced to me at a very young age. I mean, things like Dhika Dinad and like these like basic Banaras, like Bedlas, Kaidas, whatever you want to call them. They were introduced to me at a very young age. So the style was never like a new thing to me. It was kind of my introduction into tabla specifically was through the Benares Gharana
Mhm.
per se. But I mean, my deeper understanding of things like that, obviously, when Guruji started explaining it more to me, because like many things, there's a lot of like like connotations or like because a Gharana is obviously only living through the maestros of whoever's living in that present day, and so like things get lost, compositions get lost, and things like that, ideas per se like. But Guruji's explained a lot. He's explained a lot of how he envisions and how he sees Banaras Gharana, his perspective, how Panditji explained it to him as well. So yeah,
Any compositions that come to your mind as being some of your favorites?
yeah, sure, I can play a few if you want. And, first composition is a beautiful composition of Pandit Ram Sai Ji. Din din na din din tat din gana da din 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 na din tat din gana da daga terka din gana naga din taka terka tina kena taka din taka 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 din din 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 taka.
Yeah, but like so majestic. and amazing.
I mean, yeah, I mean that first composition, but in upside G's, I mean you can see the contrast of like the starting is kind of like mellower per se, but once you hit the climax, then you hit this contrast of Veer Ras, Shingar Ras is very important in that composition and just generally in Benares Gharana.
I'm so happy you mentioned that sort of Virus and Shingaras because it's exactly what you feel with the beginning having that sort of how can I
Yeah,
say soft. It's a soft start,
yeah,
but then where it ends up going is such a surprise.
yeah, definitely.
No, thank you so much for sharing those and playing it so excellently.
Thank you so much. Thank
So Meherbai, you just completed an amazing tour of India, and you also performed at the prestigious Hari Vallabh Sangeet Sammelan as well. So a major kudos and congratulations to you. It is so rare and so inspirational to have somebody who has also, grown up on this side of the world to then go back and play at such a prestigious event. So big kudos to you. Congratulations.
Thanks so much. I mean, it's all Guruji's blessings, his Ashirwad, his teachings, his love. Without that, I mean, nothing.
So take us through this India tour. What inspired you to do it? How did it get started, and where did you go?
Well, it kind of just started with Guruji like saying like, "Hey, listen, let's go to India. Like it's time for you to come see that side of the world and kind of learn more about that, experience it, and I want you to get a chance to play there as well." And I was obviously more than willing and excited. I mean, it was a great opportunity for me. The tour started. I ended up in India around like start of November, and then we went to Bangalore first. Guruji had a program um, at the Sai Baba um, ashram over there in Bangalore. So it was nice to see the ashram and Guruji played. I mean, it was really nice program. And then after that, um, my first time playing a Jori and Tabla um, duet with Guruji. I mean, he was kind enough to allow me to play. We played in Bombay, Navi Mumbai, and that was a really unique experience for me. Like just leading up to that program, having to try and be like a second, like because Guruji was playing Jodi, obviously, so trying to complement it and uphold another other tabla aspect of it was not easy, but it was a big learning curve for me. I think I learned a lot, not only about Jodi, but about tabla as well, about like where they stand as instruments. And when someone is to ask me about their differences, I can now look back at what Guruji had taught me and what we were working on at that time to kind of explain or even just understand it for myself. Then after that program was we had a little bit of a break, like a couple of weeks of just like kind of relaxing, just like do the typical like India like riyaz and then getting your tablas made and things like that. I mean, God knows how many tablas I got made while I was in India. And then we had the Calcutta program. Calcutta program was a huge one. I mean, every program is bigger than the next or as big as each other, but Calcutta program was SSF, Swara Sabrat Festival, which Pandit Tajinder Majumdarji he does in memory of Ali Akbar Khan Sahib. And over there, Guruji had a tabla solo, and he was like, "You're hopping on stage with me," and I said, "Oh, okay." What was special about that program? There was a few things that were very special. I mean, the venue itself was extremely prestigious. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of Nurul Manch in
Mhm.
Calcutta. It's a huge. I mean, one of the most prestigious stages in all of classical music as it is. I mean, and I mean, Dover Lane Music Festival. I mean, that's been going on for how many years? That happens in that same stage, and I'm not. I think when me and Guruji were heading back from soundcheck, and he's just like, "Yeah, so that's Nirul Munch," and then he tells me all these great stories of legendary artists who sung there and played there, and I'm like, "So that's really intimidating, but okay." And then the other thing that was really special about it, I mean, my first time playing at Calcutta, and Calcutta is obviously a pretty big hub of Indian classical music, specifically. I mean, tabla. How many great tabla maestros have come out of Calcutta? And for me personally, I mean, for any tabla player, it was really a great honor that Pandit Kumar Bose was sitting in the front row. So many other great tabla players, Pandit Samar Sahaji, Subha Jyoti Guha. I mean, so many great tabla players were sitting there, and it was an immense honor. And with Guruji's blessings, I was able to receive their blessings, their ashirwad, and their well wishes. I mean, it was a great honor. So that was Kolkata. And then after Kolkata, my last program in India was Har Vallabh. That one I was playing tabla solo on my own. I mean, what a prestigious music festival. What a beautiful mandir. I got the chance to look at the Devi Talab mandir. It was amazing. Such a great audience, great musicians. I mean, I was looking at the lineup and seeing my name among so many great musicians. It was like a great honor. I didn't even know what to think, and I could just thank God, thank Guruji, thank my family, my parents. I mean, such great support they've given. Otherwise, I mean, I'm just a guy from Toronto as far as it is, but with them, with their blessings and their support, I mean, I ended up at somewhere like that.
There's so much.
That was my
Meher Bhai is being, again, very, very humble, but once you start to step into the art and realize like how many sacrifices, how many hours of riyaz you have to put in, how many times that people are going to sort of, listen to what you're saying about, I have to travel like 5, 6 hours to go get this tabla made and then travel another 10 hours to play this concert.
yeah,
It's not an easy thing. So big hats off to you, Meher Bhai. Um, Coming to the Kolkata performance, obviously because the environment is such that um, tabla is a living, breathing thing there, which is not common in many cities. When you're playing a tabla solo, there's oftentimes people as I can see from YouTube videos that probably know more about tabla in the audience than the person sitting on stage in some cases. So what specific things were you able to learn in that time?
honestly, the biggest thing I learned was how to control. I mean, watched. I didn't learn like, or I don't know if I was able to do it myself, but I was able to observe Guruji control his like there's obviously, I mean, anyone playing in such a prestigious stage, there's gonna be like, and everyone's human. There's a level of excitement and nerves, and like I watched Guruji walk me through like, hey, like there's no need to be nervous. You're going to like, you've done this for how many years now? You're just doing riyaz on stage at the end of the day. Like
Yeah.
watching him, like not watching him, but experiencing him, like calming me down, or like just like calming himself down at the same time. Like obviously, I mean, any artist on the day of a concert, you need complete relaxation and just like kind of like focus on the concert. And watching that process, that was a big learning point. I mean, playing is playing. Whatever you're gonna play, you're gonna play. Like the day of a concert, you can't change how many years of learning and how many years of practice. You're not automatically gonna change your playing. Like you're gonna play how you're gonna play. Like that's a given. But
Right,
it's a
right.
matter of controlling your emotions, controlling yourself. That was a big learning curve for me personally.
I think from a mentality perspective, that seems to be what makes music unique, right? That it really starts with like a level of like self-centering before
Mm-hmm.
you before something is being presented. And I'm happy that you brought that up because that's always been something that I've been curious about. At least watching even my own
Mm-hmm.
Guruji play. Like it's
Yeah,
so
yeah. No,
interesting
I
to
mean it's
see, yeah, before the concert, during the concert, then after the concert, right?
concert. Yeah, yeah. I mean the pre-concert nerves. That when you're on stage, there's just like that climax and like that excitement, and then the post-concert, just like trying to like revise what you've done, see if you actually did anything worthwhile or not. That's all a process. Like watching someone else do it, someone who's done it for so many years, that was really special and important for me.
Beautiful. So coming to the final concert, Meher Bhai, um, sort of explain a little bit of your process for preparing for Hari Vallabh, and what the riyaz going into it was, and then ultimately sitting on stage and playing the concert. And for those of you who have not seen it, I believe your solo is available on YouTube, correct? So I would encourage all of you to go watch it. It's a fantastic solo. And yeah, please take it away.
Yeah, I had the day on my calendar for at least a couple of months ago. I think I've gone November. I was playing. Um, Funny enough, when I had found out I was with Guruji, we were in England, and then after that, I was with India the whole time. So I never really got a chance per se to sit by myself in the class. It was mostly just watching him prepare for solos and prepare me for playing with him. I kind of had an idea of what was gonna happen anyways. And I kind of just gave it my best shot and didn't try and fix the solo per se or say like, I had an idea of what I wanted to play, what I wanted to do. And specifically I kind of focused on like old compositions as well as Guruji's like sculptures, some beautiful compositions. I kind of just focus on like how like pinpoint things. How to get from point A to how to get from point A to point B.
No, it's amazing in explaining the whole process, this journey, both of traveling and then going through
Yeah,
these different uh, concerts. It's almost like you were leveling up each time,
yeah, definitely.
like a Mario game or something like
Yeah,
that. But no, more on a serious note. I think what you said is like certain things are coincidences and certain things are not, right?
yeah,
You said that you had Hari Vallabh in your calendar prior to even going to India, but then inadvertently in the process of both like touring and then being with Guruji, it prepared you for that. So I think
yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
yeah. I got kind of lucky in that sense because what better than Riaz is there? You're good.
Yeah, and you had that on stage Riyaz as well. Yeah. All right, just to finish up this wonderful session, I have two questions for you, Meher Bhai. Um, so the first of which is if there's sort of some advice you would give to your younger self after knowing that you want to take tabla seriously, what would that advice be?
Um, Probably like will love more Riaz because it will help you down in life for sure. But other than that, I think also like find a way to have a good habits. Like, not that harmful, obviously. Social but keeping that in check, like making sure you're doing all those things, but finding prioritizing your house. Because at the end of the day, like you want to take up the seriously. They're doing for just you have to find ways to do it. You can't just like say, "Oh, I have or I have these things." So I know people who are like musicians. They'll get up at like 5 a.m. or like 5 a.m. just to do dance. There's there's always a way. There's always a way to find an excuse, and there's always a way to get that excuse. That and
Yeah, definitely understanding sort of the limitations of your own schedule and then also like looking at both of them and seeing it as a challenge that can be overcome. It sounds like what you're saying. And last question to you, Meher Bhai, is if there was one era and region you could travel back to live through and sort of imbibe the music from, what would that era and region be?
there's two. I'll give you two answers. Because it's actually really funny. So obviously I'm from Punjab and Benares. So um, first would be Punjab pre 1947, like that pre-partition era of Punjab, and then experiencing like what music was, how it was being presented, at what level, what caliber, and who was presenting it, what great maestros of the time. And the second would be like, I think 19. I don't know what, like, I guess 1980s, 1960s, 70s, like the kind of later 90s, or sorry, later 1900s era of Benares, and seeing those great tabla maestros. I mean, Panne Kanthe Maharaj ji, I mean, Panne Khulal ji. Then like the generation after, Panne Keshav Maharaj ji, Panne Sayed Desai ji, Panne Sabtar Prasad ji, Uday Maharaj ji. I mean, so many great tabla players, and then along with that, there's so many great musicians like Rajan Sajan Mishra ji. I mean, there's a few others I'm forgetting, but great musicians of Benares. I mean, seeing them and how they would uphold themselves and interact amongst each other, that would be really cool as well.
Beautiful, Maiher Bhai. Thank you so much for sitting with us this evening. It's been a personal pleasure of mine to talk to you, and I've learned so much in this process.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Even in some of these row movements, do you dinagana
Yeah.
as
Like,
a possibility?
yeah, definitely. I mean, there's like a, like, specifically in Benares, there's like this kind of like end little phrase that they use a lot.
Ah, yeah.
That's I've seen like, I mean, Guruji does it a lot. I mean, I've seen them from a lot of great Benares players. They play it, and that then again comes in. It's possible. Everything is possible. I mean, depends how much you want to limit yourself and how much you don't want to per se.
No, I think it's a scary thing with the rows because at the beginning, obviously, it's very attractive, but then when you start to dissect it, and realize how much is happening and how hard everything is actually at executing,
Yeah,
it becomes like
just
so intimidating.
the amount of variations or like ways you can go with it about it, that's ridiculous per se.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
insane. There's so many ways you can go with that, and specifically like, we're talking about Punjab per se, like, or sorry, Benares. In Benares, like, there's like the speciality of playing guts within the Rela, like
Mhm.
Sadi gut. In Rao Rela, Sadi gut is played, which is like rubber leg guts. For example, like, the Rela's going gut. And then you keep the Rela going. So like, there's that aspect of a Rela where it's just considered like a base platform to go on towards guts. I mean, even like, if you want to say, for example, Punjabi guts, I mean, you must have heard of Punjabi guts.
Yeah. Lahori guts, yeah.
Lahori guts, for example, like cut. I mean, how many people have played cut? The level which this is played at, I mean, like, when I'm talking about specifically in Benares and how we were taught, it's to be presented within a rela. So your base kind of,
Yeah.
chant. Rela. Cut.
back to Rela, that's kind of like a key aspect of Banaras Tabla is
Yeah.
that plus gut or even Tokras. I've seen like Guruji's done that, like Tokra and then coming back to the Rela. That kind of presentation is, from what I've seen, very unique to Banaras.
So Guruji's guru, Pandit Shyama Bose, his father, Pandit Anantnath Bose,
Ah,
um, was a disciple, or I forget who he exactly, I don't want to butcher who he was a disciple was, but his Taalim was primarily in Benares.
okay.
And then Feroz Khan Saab would also come to his house from
Okay.
Punjab
Yeah.
and teach. So I've
Yeah.
always been curious by like this notion of you play relas and then have compositions in between that. Because if you look back at like old recordings of like Tirko Khan Saab, or if you look at like Afak Hussain Khan Saab,
Yeah.
um, they're playing most of their compositions, it seems like, not all of them, but a decent bit between like 155 to 180. That sort of range.
Mm.
Like the higher end of Madhyale, not necessarily Drut.
Yeah.
So it's interesting like how what you said, having a Rela then interspersing compositions between them has sort of become a everyone does it, right? It's not it's while it may have
Yeah. Yeah.
started Benares, it's become like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You just see a lot of people doing it nowadays.
yeah. It's thank you for sharing that perspective. Um